to Eric's Drink Whiskey, mini episode number 3. This is coming on the heels of our third full episode last week, where we drank a really great Heaven Hill product and chatted with Mike Schmidt. And by now you've heard from Eric and me individually. I realized when Eric's video dropped that when I did mine, I just jumped into drinking good whiskey and completely forgot my manners. So thought I'd take tonight to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my whiskey story, and maybe show off my man cave a little bit, so not to be outdone. So to get right to it, what am I drinking? I am drinking the bourbon that I feel like started my hobby, and that is Elijah Craig Small Batch. I actually just drained this bottle, pouring this glass a little bit earlier. So I came about that because after hit and miss with bourbon for a while, I finally found one that I really enjoyed, and it turned out that was Henry McKenna Bottled in Bond. That's a 10-year-old 100 proof Heaven Hill product. Absolutely delicious. It's got just kind of the right blend of stuff for me. It really was a welcome reprieve from all those that I thought were just too sweet. The problem was it's a really great product. It's a really affordable product, and that's caught on. So if you find it in a liquor store once, it's going to be a long time before you find it again, unfortunately. So that was the predicament I found myself in. I called up my good buddy Eric and said, Eric, I've got this whiskey that I really enjoy. Where can I find it? And he laughed in my face and said, you're not going to be able to. And I said, okay, well, I need the next best thing then. So he gave me the recommendation of Elijah Craig Small Batch and said that's going to be one of the closest things you can get to that same flavor. Because of their age and their proof, they're both Heaven Hill products. So that's when I bought my first bottle of Elijah Craig, and the rest is history. You'll come to learn this about Eric, and I'll tell some stories on him. When he recommended the Elijah Craig Small Batch, I then got the entire history of the brand and the baseball card stats, because Eric is just like a whiskey savant. He just like absorbs this information and like rattles it off at will, and is 100% correct. All of the facts that he spews. There was one afternoon that he and I were chatting, and he was going through all these different things. I was like, there's no way in hell this guy like is getting all these facts correct. So we were talking on the phone. So while we were talking on the phone, I hopped on the computer, and he was like, oh yeah, and then there's this one label, and he rattled off a brand, and I quickly Googled it and quickly Googled the whiskey that I was talking about, and pulled it up. And he's sitting there telling me how old it is, what warehouse it was stored in, what was its in, like all these just random stats, and they were 100% correct for like 4 or 5 different whiskeys, and I thought that was just amazing. The other thing that you'll see, I'll give you guys a peek at my liquor cabinet in a little bit, is that Eric is an extremely bad influence on you if you enjoy whiskey and are susceptible to persuasion. Elijah Craig Small Batch was the first whiskey that he told me I needed to go buy, but it sure as hell wasn't the last. And I've got Eric to thank for most of the bottles I have in my cabinet. How those conversations usually went was either he would tell me, hey, if you can find insert bottle here, you need to go buy it, you're gonna love it. That was the instance with our whiskey last week, Fighting Cock. He's like, if you can find Fighting Cock, you need to try it. 103 proof, 6-year-old-ish Heaven Hill. He's like, you'll love it. And I did. And then I would obviously run recommendations that I got by him, which is how I ended up with my old Ezra, the Ezra Book 7-year-old cask strength. Guy at my liquor store was like, hey, I've got old Ezra. So I called Eric. I was like, hey, he's got old Ezra. He's like, you need to get it. So I did. And that's how I have such an extensive whiskey collection, because Eric has impeccable taste, and some of that's rubbed off on me. So just a little quick tour. Where we're sitting right now, this is the desk. This is where we film I film my portion of our main episode. Do all the video editing, do all the uploading and stuff like that. Now we'll jump over and take a look at the liquor cabinet. So we're here at the liquor cabinet. I don't necessarily want to rattle off every single bottle I have for you, because that'll take a long time, but I will say I've got a couple of brands that I'm really passionate about. You can see down here I've got some of Buffalo Trace's fine stuff from mash bill number 1, some E.H. Taylor, some Eagle Rare, main Buffalo Traces up there. Also a big fan of Blanton's though. Huge fan of Four Roses. I love their high rye flavor, specifically their single barrel and their small batch select. Got a boatload of Heaven Hill products, a little bit of Jefferson's, love Knob Creek, some more Heaven Hill. I got my McKenna. I got some Elijah Craig's Barrel Select or Barrel Picks, and also some Barrel Proof over here. Little bit of everything. It took me a while to kind of find my flavor that I really enjoy, but I think I've pretty much dialed it in on kind of a set profile. But it takes a while. You got to do a lot of trial and error to get there. So because one liquor cabinet is not enough, because you got to drink more than just bourbon. This is where I keep all my ryes. So I've got a couple of craft ones. I got Balcones, Manifest, which is local here in Florida, as well as Timber Creek. They're another local Florida distillery. Some Knob Creek cask strength rye. All of my cask strength bourbons / Tennessee whiskeys. My scotches. Big fan of Johnny Walker Green Label, Balvenie, 14-year-old Caribbean cask. I think I got some Lagavulin back there, some rum, a whole bunch of other stuff. And one that I really like, Mellow Corn. I know I've posted that on Instagram before. It's a real neat flavor. But so this is liquor cabinet number 2. This is not quite as full, but it's getting there. So this is the tour. Not a lot going on up here. Just kind of where I keep my whiskey and hang out with my dogs, watch TV, work, paint, whatever. Do some video editing. Just want to say thank you to everyone for the support you've shown Eric and me as we get started out on this endeavor. We are definitely both very passionate about whiskey. It's a good way to bring people together. There's a lot of history and tradition involved in it. The other cool thing about whiskey that I find fascinating is that out of all the rules that they have on what it takes to make whiskey and what you can and can't do, you get so much variety of flavor. Of course, my wife would disagree. She says it tastes all like gasoline. But just want to say thank you again for giving us some love. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that bell notification so you can know when future videos drop. And also be sure to follow us on Instagram at Eric's Drink Whiskey. We're constantly posting what we're drinking, where we're going, who we're hanging out with, and when we've got new stuff coming out. Thank you guys, and really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers.